What's going on, everybody? Patrick Auger here with Mr. Drake Riggs, and today we're talking about Charles Oliveira turning down a fight against Michael Chandler at UFC 258. Now, this is an interesting, scenario and report that we got out of AG Fighting, I believe, who is known for talking to Oliveira's manager, does interviews with Charlie Olives quite a bit, so it's not unexpected that they would pick this up. But apparently, Charles Oliveira was offered a fight against Michael Chandler on short notice for UFC 258, which would have been, at least for Chandler, a very quick turnaround. And he turned it down. So, Drake, what are your thoughts on this?
It's a bummer. That'd be a very fun fight to watch, of course. Again, it's a bummer for multiple reasons. The fact that we don't get to see that fight, both of those guys very fun, exciting fighters. It'd be a great matchup. But then a bummer that the UFC kind of doesn't want to give Oliveira a title shot next. Because I'm all on board that train and everything, and thinking he should be the rightful one of two next men in the title fight, right? So, bummer in those two aspects. But the interesting thing about it all to me, as I said before we went on air here, is how everybody's pointing kind of the finger at Oliveira for turning it down. Because, I guess he technically is the guy who did do that, say that he's not going to take the fight. But just if you watch Chandler speaking to Ariel Helwani this week, when it was Monday or whatever it was, and talking about, potentially fighting on this card and everything, it is a very quick turnaround for him. And I got the sense from listening to him, just from what he was saying, and how I think he even said that it would have been difficult to do and he probably couldn't have done it. Like, I think he said something very similar to along those lines. So it's like, okay, well, the fight probably wouldn't have happened anyway then. Like, let's not get all upset about Charlie Olives ducking or saying these kind of things. But, he's the guy who has been reportedly said that. So, of course, the blame's going to go on him. But I don't think there was ever any real chance of it happening on that date. I don't know why they would want to turn it around exactly on that one. Did the fight drop out that I missed? I do not remember, but
Weidman versus Hall dropped
right,
out on that one.
Right. So yeah, that's kind of shitty to try and put those guys in that position so quickly and everything too. Like, just where they are right now, and of course Chandler being company man didn't take really any damage. But again, his weight cut, like, that was a reason he would have debuted sooner, right? But he didn't, because he did that cut as the replacement guy. So I don't think that there was any chance of this happening. So I don't know why. I guess the UFC could be like, yeah, let's see what they say. But I don't think the blame should entirely be on Oliveira here or Chandler. I think it's more on the UFC for being like, all right, guys, get in there, maybe. But that's just what they do. So yeah, there's a lot of different ways to look at it, I think. But I just hope that we get to see Oliveira back soon and in a good, logical fight. And then Chandler, I'll take him whenever as well.
Yeah, it's one of those things where Chandler, having just gone through the weight cut, it's very possible that, he could have turned around and maybe do it. But, like, I'm with you in the sense that would have been a particularly hard weight cut for him to turn around and do again right away. So, he said it probably wouldn't have happened in one interview. I think in another one, he might have said, like, oh, I accepted. Probably something of that. Like, I'm hearing that type of back and forth on what did he actually say in which interview, all of that. It's moot, though. I think he knew that at this point in all these interviews where he's being asked about it or he's talking about it, that he already knew that Charles Oliveira turned him down. And for Oliveira, again, you are on an 8-fight win streak. You're looking phenomenal. You have every right. You arguably have the most right out of any lightweight right now to get a crack at the belt. Everyone wants to throw Poirier in the mix. Yes, but Poirier lost to Khabib, beat Dan Hooker, and then beat, again, as we've stated, a Conor McGregor who does not have a win in the lightweight division in 5 years. It's hard to say, oh, you get an automatic title shot off of that. You do, because of the business sense. It is a big deal. You knocked out Conor McGregor, yes. But from a purely merit standpoint, Oliveira, by far, probably has the greatest claim to a title belt fight. So I think, for Oliveira, he's really at a point where he really just wants the title fight, or he wants a clear number one contenders match, and he wants to be able to prepare for it. That's understandable. All of these guys, Chandler, Gaethje, Poirier, whoever it may be, whoever he may end up facing, are all killers too. These are people you don't want to take short notice fights against, probably ever. So I totally understand his rationale here. But this does give the UFC business ammo, essentially, to say, oh, he turned down fights, right? That's the narrative they kind of pitched a little bit before they matched up McGregor and Poirier and Chandler and Hooker. Was, well, Oliveira could have fought, but he turned down fights. Short notice fights, but he turned them down. That gives the UFC all the leverage they need to then spout the narrative of, oh, no, it should be Chandler or Poirier, or Gaethje, Chandler, whoever, and deny Charlie Olives his rightful title shot because he's not, jumping when they say jump, which is something we've seen happen multiple times, especially with fights falling out. I'm sure they would have loved to put this fight on the February 13th card with Weidman and Hall being gone. I mean, other than Burns and Usman, now you don't have a ton of name value necessarily on the main card of that pay-per-view. So it's one of those things where, from a business perspective, this is going to probably come back to bite Oliveira.
Yeah, hard to argue with that. And it reminds me to a pretty recent case, I think, of, Tony Ferguson and Dustin Poirier, when it sounded like that was the fight to make. And wasn't Dana saying like that they were both saying no? Like, it was kind of in both directions there from what I remember. But and we never even ended up getting that. So probably for the better, I guess, for Tony's sake. But you never know. We'll never find out. That's a probably more favorable matchup for him than what he ended up getting. But again, we'll never know. So it's interesting, just a whole interesting situation, how it's unfolding, and to see what will end up taking that spot, because you imagine that they will continue to try and fill it with something. And yeah, I guess the more that I think about it too, I said let's blame them, but I guess you can't really blame them for trying to make as good of a fight as they can on short notice when they lost their co-main event that really wasn't that great in the first place. So, that would have been a better option.
Yes.
Hey, we already talked about the middleweight division a while ago. Go watch that if you haven't, and that's all you need to know about that comment. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. I guess that we could transition then, Pat, to, of course, liking and subscribing to the channel and the video. Of course, hit the notification bell if you haven't already. Get in the delightful dozen. And I don't know, Pat, what do you think is that the fight that they should make regardless? And if not, or either way, what would you like to see fill in for that card?
Ooh, that's a good question. So I think Charlie Olives versus Chandler is the fight to make business-wise, because, again, you got to do Poirier and McGregor, got to get that trilogy before McGregor fights somebody else and maybe loses. And Poirier clearly wants it now. Every interview he's had since then is like, yep, I want that. He's hinted about pay-per-view points and how champions have them, which leads me to believe he was put in a Donald Cerrone situation where he may have gotten no pay-per-view points last time out. So that's unconfirmed, but it certainly leads me to think that's part of the logic there. But in terms of what should fill in, if fights are dropping like flies right now, yeah. I don't know. I honestly, I can't think of a fight that would make sense this short notice, right? It's, you could move. Honestly, I would say if you had a good enough co-main, and I don't remember the co-main right now off the top of my head. Oh yeah. No, yeah, I do. Move Edgar Sandhagen over, or move Overeem Volkov over from this week's card, and then promote Edgar Sandhagen, because on a fight night card, you can get away with Edgar Sandhagen easily. And then that would be a good heavyweight matchup to serve in as the co-main. Or fight night card, you can have Volkov versus Overeem and pretty much whatever under it, and then move that one over. I think that would be the play if I could pick. What about you?
Well, let me say that there's absolutely no chance that that's happening. That's in a couple days, But What would I put there? Like, yeah, that question is very open-ended, so I'm not excited to have to answer it here.
You brought it up.
I know. I can put myself in a hole. But, I'll say what will probably end up happening is they'll just bump up something from that card because like whatever gets filled in there, there's a very good chance that it might not happen because of the coronavirus is still doing its thing, as we've alluded to. Um, Ideally, it would be very cool to see a title fight slip in there. Like, of course, that's not going to happen, but Valentina Andrade is one that I think we're getting very close to probably getting announced here soon. I have no insider information on that, but it just, from what I'm seeing, it looks like we're getting close to that. Probably will not be that soon, of course, but I don't know. I really don't have a good answer. One of the fights already on that card.
Yep, that's almost assuredly what will happen. Is one of those fights will get promoted to the co-main. So we'll see what happens there.